I paid for mistakes, yes I did. More baby.
Good evening, everyone. We're back. We are back. Week number 2, season 2, season 1, episode 2. Good evening, everyone. We're back. We are back. Season 1, episode 2, on the couch with Dr. Kim. This week, we're talking about spinning the block with your ex. Oh, Lord. That's touchy, isn't it? People are like automatically, the first response is, oh no, you don't do that. You don't go back to an ex. Why would I do that? I left for a reason, right? But there's many reasons why people go back. And I have a lot of examples and good stories, right? So we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of that tonight. There's reasons why people go back. There's reasons why people stay away. So stay tuned. Please like, please share, so we can get some energy in the chat and talk about this for just a little bit. As the Baptist preacher saying, it'll be before you long. We'll take as long as it takes to talk about it, right, and unpack it. But we'll be here at least until 8ish. Does that sound good? We'll be here that long. All right. So like, share, pass it on, invite some friends, pull up a chair, get a nice beverage. I'm going classic tonight, classic margarita here. Nothing really fancy, but something to wet my whistle while we talk about returning to an ex or not returning to an ex. Ugh. Touchy, touchy, touchy. So last week, if you were here, we talked about dating in a recession. Is there a dating recession? And we concluded that there is. And a dating recession is what? Well, any kind of recession is when there's less of a supply, right, than the demand. And so in this case, in dating, it's a whole lot of folks that want to date. It's a whole lot of folks that want to get married, but they can't find the same number of people that want the same thing that they want. So there's some frustration. So we talked about that. And so because of that, a lot of people end up doing what? They end up going back to their exes. So we're going to talk about that. Why would we do that? Under what circumstances? The pros, the cons, and if you're going to do it, how to do it right. How to do it right. Let's see who we have. Oh, she made it. See some folks in the chat. Hey, hey, hey. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, so let's get it started. So again, because it's fewer options that we would like out there in these dating streets, some people are spinning the block, which means they're going back down memory lane through the rotation that they've had. And I did a show a long time ago about rotation. So they go back down the block and they think, it was so good when I was with so-and-so. Or sometimes they start comparing the person they're with who they're about to leave or the person they just left. And they're like, man, when I was with so-and-so, they would have never done that to me. I wonder what's going on with them. I wonder what they're doing now. And so after going down memory lane and doing that comparison, sometimes people decide to pick up that phone. And how do people open up that conversation sometimes? Hello, stranger. Hey, stranger. I got a hey, stranger text last week. Blew my mind. I said, okay, it wasn't an ex. This was somebody who wants to apply for the position. But nevertheless, that was the opener was, hey, stranger. I cracked up. And so thus starts the spinning the block, saying, does that person feel the same way you do? First of all, are they single? Hopefully they're single. And if they're single, do they feel the same way you do? Are they brave enough to want to give it another chance or the second time around, as our opening song said? So there's some you see that reminiscing about the good times. Sometimes it's circumstances, right, that bring you back in the same place. I've seen that happen with people. You just happen to be somewhere. Doesn't always have to be a reunion, although reunions are known for that, right? You haven't seen people in a while, and man, you're in the same room, and it's like that chemistry is still there, and you're like, oh my, I wonder why we broke up. Sometimes you forget. It's like, man, what happened with us? Why did we break up? I know I had that happen. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get off topic, but person reminded me of some stuff. I promised. I said, I don't remember that happening. Yeah, you kicked me to the curb. I said, oh my, I must have been younger when I thought people were disposable. But anyway, so we're gonna start off with the cons. You all talk to me in the chat. Make sure you're sharing. Invite somebody else to listen in to this. Okay. And I want to hear your input. I don't want to just talk to myself. So what are some of the cons? Because immediately when I posted this on Facebook, people were like, no way, I'll pass. Not my ex. They were like, not interested, not interested. So I think we're all aware of what some of the cons may be. What might be some of the negatives of going back to an ex, reuniting with an ex. So let's hit on those first. The first one is choosing to go back because you're lonely. That's probably the worst reason. You're like, I'm out here, my phone is dry, nobody's got anything to say. I haven't been out in a while. And I run into the person, or I just happen to see them as I'm flipping through my phone, or I'm scrolling on social media. And it's like, shoot, what the heck? I don't have anything else going on. That is the worst position to be in, to go back and reconnect with an ex, because already what? You're at a point of desperation. Your guard is already down because, okay, it's a horrible reason. You already got your guard down because it's like almost anything will do. You ever been hungry before? Like starving? You look up, you're like, I haven't eaten all day. And you could get some crackers, like plain old saltine crackers, and it'll taste like a steak because you're starving. So it's the same thing of going with an ex when you're lonely. You'll hook up, you got amnesia and everything, and be right back in the middle of it and don't even know how you got there. So if you know you're lonely and you run into your ex, or your ex comes across your screen, please slow down. Please slow down and engage your brain, okay? Before you go any further. It's like cease and desist, okay? All right. So the next thing is another reason why it is unadvisable to go back to an ex. And let me stop and say something right here. Dr. Kim is never telling you or suggesting that you should entertain reuniting with someone who was abusive. All right. So let me make sure I make that perfectly clear. And by abusive, I mean all forms of abuse. A lot of times people focus on physical abuse. Well, the person never hit me. And this is for men and women, because there are some physically abusive women. In fact, I just saw something earlier today. Was it Teresa Randall and Father MC? Yeah, think she got arrested again for going upside his head or his body or whatever. So whoever is swinging and putting their hands on someone is wrong. So I want to give that disclaimer before I have the men show up. Oh, that's male bash. This is not a male bashing podcast by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, desperation. Oh my, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. I don't want to get into how good the ex looks too. Sometimes that'll make you forget. You see them and they're still looking good or maybe better than they were looking when you were together. Oh my. Yeah. I what's up, LG? How goes it? How goes it? We back. We back. And so you see them and they're looking like they're looking, and you forget everything that went wrong. So don't be lonely and they're looking good. That's bad. Both that's a bad equation. So the I was getting to my second reason. The second reason why you don't want to rush into reuniting with an ex is you're susceptible to repeating patterns, especially if you're lonely, right? You already have the amnesia. I can't really remember why we broke up, or that was so long ago. Maybe it doesn't matter, especially if you're lonely. You start having this internal conversation with yourself. And before you know it, you're back in those patterns that caused you to break up in the first place. And then, right, then your memory kick. That's why. That's why I sat you out on the curb, because you're raggedy, because you're mean, because you're inconsistent, all of these things, right? So you don't want to set yourself up to fall back into the patterns that made you leave in the first place. How about that? Another reason why you don't want to reunite with an ex, especially at a moment of loneliness, at a moment of even grief. I've seen people do it during moments of grief and great loss. And sometimes think about funerals, especially Black funerals. You might see anybody at a Black funeral, right? You see them, you're feeling some kind of way, and they're looking like they're looking. And before you know it, you're back in those patterns. And I've had that happen, especially if you're a helper or you're an empath. Oh my God. Before you know it, you're drying tears and you hugging, and now you're together every day. How did that happen? This was not part of the plan. You had that amnesia and you're lonely and you fell into it and you weren't thinking, you were leading with your heart, right? Following with your heart. So you got to engage your brain. So going back, we don't go back if there's abuse. And that is what? Physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse. I could probably do a show on that. Um, yeah, all forms of abuse are a no. So if that was the case, I wouldn't even entertain it at all. We can just kind of stop the list at that point. Okay. Repeating patterns and collect. Absolutely. Who is that? Who is that taking notes for me? Thank you, Dr. Shay. All right. The next thing going to an ex can do is stunt your growth, stunt your personal growth. A lot of times after we break up with someone, especially if it was a really toxic relationship, you start doing some work on yourself. You say, I don't want to find myself here again. So I'm either going into therapy, or you start reading your self-help books, or you start seeing a relationship coach or a life coach like Dr. Kim, and you get yourself together. So you don't find yourself being hurt or being attracted to a toxic person again. And you start making some strides in your life. Sometimes we lose weight, sometimes we get healthy, sometimes we get a different job, sometimes we discover some hobbies or skills that we didn't have. And then you run into the ex and you fall back into those patterns and you start losing yourself. All of the ground that you made, all of the progress that you made. And sometimes, again, you don't realize that that's happening or could happen until you start engaging with the ex. And they may say something and boom, hit that trigger. The trauma response is there. You get that PTSD, and it's like, oh my God, this is why. This is why I left. And now you might have to start that healing process all over again. All over again. Yep. Because they hit that back. And sometimes, yeah, you just end up reverting back because there's a certain energy or synergy between people, right? Good or bad. And there's some folks who just bring out the worst in you, or their presence diminishes you. Maybe you finally found your voice, and now that you're around them, you get quiet again. So, well, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to disrupt it, kind of maybe ruin our chance of getting back together, especially if that was one of the reasons they left you. So now you want to show that you're this changed person, or maybe have changed something that they didn't like about you. What are you doing? Then that means you're not being your authentic self. So again, you're losing some of the ground. You run the risk of losing the ground that you've made personally, and start regressing into somebody you don't recognize or that you don't like anymore. So don't go back when you're lonely. You'll slip into some patterns, and you might regress or backslide right on your growth. And then another thing that makes it hard. So let's just say you get back with the ex, things are going well. You're like, okay, wow, they seem different. I'm different. But if there was some cheating involved, if there was some infidelity or some lying, that tends to linger in the background. And so every time they say something to you, you're having this internal dialogue. Is that true? Okay, I'm about to make a run over here, and then I'll meet up with you. Is that really where you are? Sometimes people have said, I'm over it, I'm done, it's water under the bridge. That was years ago. But if you really haven't gotten there, or the presence of the person takes you right back to that space, that's hard to have a relationship with somebody you really ultimately don't trust. That everything they say, you question. And if you don't say it out loud, it'll show in what you're not saying, or sometimes it'll show in your body language. You'll get quiet. They're like, are you okay? I'm good. But you're not good, because inside you're like rolling the tape. I remember the last time you said you were going somewhere and I found out you weren't there. Or the last time you said you were going to do something and it didn't happen. But again, you're walking on the eggshells because you want to give it a chance, especially if you're lonely. But you don't stand a chance if there's some trust issues there, because the basis of any relationship, but definitely a romantic relationship, is trust. And if you can't give the person your full trust, who just came in? Hey, girl, hey. Hey there, how are you, dog? Welcome, good evening. Make sure you all are sharing so we can get this chat room full. I'm appreciating and glad that you're here. Absolutely. So you can't build a relationship that was broken on trust. And if you're trying to do that and mask it, it's going to fail. It's going to fail. So if you know that you are, you know, a person who's always second guessing somebody or second guessing that person, absolutely, to leave it alone. The last reason why you don't want to reunite with an ex, especially if you are lonely, is the emotional stress that it can cause you. Cycling back, sometimes it can start you on a roller coaster that you thought you got off of. Because again, everything I've said, sometimes it's going on inside and you're trying to hold it in and hold on to it so you don't go back to where you all were. But how about the very thing you need to do if you're going to get together with your ex is what? Go back to the beginning of the end. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So is it worth the stress? I think you have to really think about, again, the person, the situation, what caused you all to break up, Are they worth the risk? Because it is a risk. It is a risk to go back and reunite with somebody from your past. Did they bring value when they were in your life before? Think about it. Was it one incident that broke you up, or was it a series of incidents? Was it a misunderstanding, or was it a pattern of misunderstanding? Did you speak two different languages? And by I mean that I've met people, hey girl, hey, thank you. I'm trying. um, you can what was I going to say? I got so excited. I seen Queen Mother Sister in the chat. You can like I said, lie to yourself about what happened, right? Like I said, amnesia is not our friend. Well, why did we break up? Did they bring value to your life when they were in your life? And I remember I when I was going through my divorce and I was crying on my mom's shoulder and was trying to tell her everything that happened. And she said, okay, well, what part did you play in that? And I was, what? Did you hear everything I said? What this man did to me? And she said, absolutely, I did. And those things were terrible. However, you chose him. Woo! That was an eye opener. And she was right. I did choose him. So, what I had to do, and of course, this came through therapy, pastoral counseling, and everything else, I had to think about where I was in my life when I chose him. So if you're considering reuniting with an ex and maybe you don't remember why you broke up, go back to what was going on in your life when you met them. And sure enough, when I rewound the tape, I was at a crisis point in my life. And I was also, I won't say a moment of desperation, but there were definitely a lot of people around me who were saying, because I already had a child, that, nobody's going to pick you because you're damaged goods. You already got a kid, you've already been married. So you got limited choices. There's those limited choices again. And here's this man shows up, great guy, my baby daddy, nice dude, not really any of the characteristics on my list or anyone that I would have engaged with before, but he was a nice guy. And he treated me well. He immediately started doing things for me. And so this was going against everything that people were telling me. Nobody's going to want to date you. Nobody's going to want to be involved with your son. And here it was, he was doing things for me. He was doing things for my son. So, wow, I need to count myself fortunate. When the argument started and the belittling started, I ignored it because I'm like, well, at least he's doing these things. Because at that point, those were things that I needed, right? Because the villagers are saying, really, you desperate. Girl, ain't nobody going to want you. You better try to hop on this train while it's available. And then I get pregnant. So there's no question of what you're going to do. So I'm saying all that to say, looking at the circumstances that we met, there's a very, very small chance, a remote chance that we could ever get back together because the basis of our relationship was faulty. I was in a bad space. He was in a transition in his life. I won't speak on it because it's his life. And so we got together under some really false pretenses, or I'll say a really unstable time in our lives. So think back to where you were when you met that ex, why you met that ex, how did you all get together, under what circumstances, and that may help you narrow down, is this person worth a risk, right? Risking my mental health, possibly my physical health, all of those things. Is it even worth it to open up that can? Hold on. What did you say? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's the right person, the wrong time. We're going to talk about that. You must be looking at my notes. Did you all share this with somebody? Make sure you're sharing the link, okay? And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's free. Somebody asked me earlier, how much does it cost to subscribe to your channel? Absolutely nothing but your time, and I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let's talk about the good stuff. And when I was talking about doing this topic with somebody, um, they reminded me, you know what, every time I think about getting back together with my ex, I think about Ashanti and Nelly. Don't they make reuniting look good, don't they? They make reuniting look really good and really possible. They have come back together and formed a whole new brand, and all of this prosperity is coming their way, brand new baby. I mean, they make getting back with your ex look like something we should all investigate. But how about it doesn't always go that way for everybody, right? But they sure make you want to take a chance. I did do a show on this similar to folks who had done it, who got married to the same person twice. Is it that one? Got married to the same person twice. And in each case, it was maybe 10 years or more between the marriages. And almost all of them, except one, have worked out. And it's because they did the things I'm about to share with you. So a lot of time has to pass. Usually people will grow up, or like somebody put in the chat, it was the wrong time. They had too many things going on, or maybe wasn't able to invest the time and energy in the relationship, didn't know how. And so that 10 years later or 20 years later, I know one couple, it was like 20 years later, right? They got back together and it just clicked. It was their time. Some of the pros. What are some of the advantages of going back to your ex? One of the things that's great about going back to your ex is the familiarity, right? So one thing that's awful, I'll say uncomfortable about dating, is the getting to know you phase. And for those of you who have been in the dating streets for a while, you know exactly what I mean. We are so sick. Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm tired of finding out what the person's favorite color is, or telling them how I take my coffee, or here's my pet peeves. What are your goals and dreams? Where do you want to be in 5 years? It's like, who's tired of doing those first date interview questions, right? So getting back with an ex is comfortable because you already know each other, or at least what you remember about each other, right? So you don't have to go back through all those formalities and the introductions and those kind of things. Know their family, probably their habits, their personality. So again, some of those pleasantries you can just skip on past that. You know them. And because of that, right, the familiarity and the comfort, usually, or added to that, is also the compatibility, oftentimes the sexual compatibility. Yeah, I'm gonna go there. And sometimes we know the sexual compatibility is what kept you there maybe a little longer than you wanted to be, right? Or should have been. The person is always, everything is falling apart. But oh, when they touch you, mm, yeah, yeah, you forget about all those bad times. So the sexual compatibility, sometimes that chemistry between people is still there, even though these other issues have arisen. And so when you reunite with that person, sometimes immediately the sparks, the butterflies, whatever it is that lets you know that attraction is there, is still there. And again, going back to the top, if you've been lonely, it probably pops up real fast. So the familiarity and comfort, the compatibility socially and sometimes sexually is there. There's usually a friendship there, right? There's been some strong love bond that may still remain from those good times, especially if you were much younger or that person was your first anything, right? You got that piece. There's a foundation there. You know them. They know you. They know things about you that you don't have to explain. One of the benefits could be the maturity, right? So if they actually took the time to work on themselves while you were apart, you worked on yourselves. Maybe they fixed some of those issues that went through anger management, or again went through therapy to deal with some insecurities they might have been dealing with. And so now they're stronger and more resilient and ready to be a full partner, right? And give you some things maybe they couldn't offer you before. And likewise for you. You're like, I'm a better person. I'm stronger. I'm wiser. Put a little Marvin Sapp in there. I'm better, much better. You don't know anything about that. So it's maturity. So it's familiar. There's some compatibility. And then sometimes that reconnecting almost seems a natural thing to do if you have some history or shared goals. So maybe there's some things that you were going to do and he was going to do. And now, after all these years, you've done them separately. But it's like, wow, what if we put that together now? How much powerful would that be? Seeing that happen. And then having a family, shared children. And we know the children never give up on that. I was watching a reality TV show the other day, and that was the children's only wish. They kept saying, what could we do to make you happy? What can we make you do to feel better about things? And the kids are like, get back together. And the parents are looking at each other like, oh, that's not going to happen. So what else do you have on your list? And they were like, get back together. It was like, come on, mommy's nice and daddy's nice now. You all can be nice and be back in love. Kids just don't understand. But sometimes when you start going through these milestones and showing up at the birthdays and the graduations, people realize, wow, we're better together and we're better for our kids if we're in the same place. So sometimes those kiddos, right, you get the parent trap. Those kids bring you back together. So it's a possibility. All those are positives, right? All of those are positives. But if you're going to be successful, and do this, there's some things you need to consider. So for those of you who are still saying no, or hell no, you can share this with somebody else. And the first thing I would suggest to anybody is take your time. Take your time so you can really see an unobstructed view of this person and witness, have they really changed? Have they really changed? You need to see some observable change. Not what they've told you has changed, but that you see it. And you're only going to be able to see that over time, right? I'm not going to go the Steve Harvey route and say 90 days. I'm not going to go the Tyler Perry route and say you need to see somebody through all 4 seasons of that. My dear Tyler Perry, it's the same thing. But you need some time to see if they've said, I no longer get angry at the drop of a hat. Let's go through a few things and find out if that's true. Let me watch how you deal with other people as well and see if that energy is really there consistently. And even checking yourself, making sure when I'm with this person, am I still the changed person that I evolved into? Because again, sometimes folks that help you backslide, it's just like they tell people when they get out of jail. Worst thing you can do is go back around the people you used to hang around with. So you may have been rehabilitated, but you go back in the neighborhood around those folks that you used to make runs with, etc. Drop of a hat, you could be right back into those habits. So it's the same thing about you. You may have changed, but you got to also keep tabs on yourself. Am I keeping up with these new habits being around this person from my past? So you want to see observable change. And then you also want to see, oh, okay, great. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. You want to see active change. What do I mean by that? I've known people that have separated because the person was not on the same trajectory, meaning at certain points in our lives, we have milestones, right? By the time I'm this age, I want to be done with school. By the time I'm this age, I want to be in my first house, or I want to be at a particular place in my career. And that partner is not there, or they're not where they've agreed to be at certain points, the way you may have talked about when you first got together. So you separate. So let's just say you come back together and they're like, oh, I'm better now. I'm going to school, or I'm going to start this business. I'm going to, it's all of these future tense promises. My suggestion is that you see that plan is in place and there's some actionable items. So I'm not all about build a girl or build a man, but I definitely would support someone who is in process, even if they haven't met those goals. So if they're starting a business, oh, where's your LLC application? Where's proof of your small business loan? Have you applied for it? If you have, when will you get a decision? I would never suggest you go back to somebody and they're still talking about what they're going to do, and there's no proof that they have actively or in the process of doing those things. You're going to set yourself up. You will set yourself up to be disappointed. Even before all of this, there needs to be some open communication. And that word is overused. Oh, we need to be able to communicate. What does that mean? Really, the first thing you need to do is go back to square one. Why did we break up? And we always know that there's 3 stories: yours, theirs, and the truth. So we need to go back and revisit your story, his story, her story, and then the truth, and put it on the table. Why did we break up? How did I feel about that? What did I do about that? And what are we going to do about it now? And it could be that after that conversation, there's nothing to talk about, right? Because sometimes a conversation will ensue and we decide, you know what? We can't even agree on why we broke up. So there's nothing to discuss about getting back together. Or sometimes you realize, wow, that's what I did that upset you. I thought it was this other thing. So sometimes it brings clarity. But until you unpack that, you're both lying to yourself to keep trying to move forward. The biggest piece of advice, if you want to call it advice, I think I'm just kind of throwing out some things to think about. And that is to start over. A big mistake, and I got this from people who have done this. Start over. Approach the relationship as a new relationship rather than just picking up where you left off. Because in essence, you are different people, right? You're not the same person that you were even 6 months ago. I would like to think I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. But most certainly, if you're talking about 5 to 10 years, like I was saying, has happened to most of these couples, you're not the same person. So you need to reintroduce yourself. The introduction is probably not as long as an initial introduction, but you still need to reintroduce yourself and the things that you like and how you function now. Again, so the person knows with their eyes wide open what they're signing up for. And we're not stuck back on who you were in high school, who you were in college, who you were when we were young folks just starting out. So establish a new foundation based on that open communication. And then bake slowly. Bake slowly under wraps. A lot of times we get excited when someone new comes into our life, or even something like this where somebody comes back into our life and you want to tell somebody. Now, I'm not going to tell you to completely keep it to yourself, but you need to know your circle. You need to know your circle. I would suggest keeping it to yourself until you all know what you're going to do. And here's why. Initially, for the most part, you're probably going to have naysayers. I know you're not getting back with, especially if they were your support system when you were going through the breakup. Girl, but I remember all the nights I was on the phone with you trying to help you go to sleep, and how you woke up crying and go to bed crying. I know you're not going to give him another chance. Dude, that girl had you going. All the money she took from you, where she embarrassed you, man, how you going to give her another chance? So 9 out of 10, the people who went through that grieving process with you after the breakup, they're not going to be happy about that, because they remember the bad things, right? Remember, they didn't love that person the way you did. So all they remember is the hurt and what that hurt looked like and what that hurt sounded like. And they don't want you to go through that again. The good times have been erased from their memory. So you're probably not going to have a chance to even explore the possibility if you tell those that's closest to you. And you all talk to me. What does that sound like? You got to know your people. I probably have 1 or 2 people that I would tell, and I know that they would be objective enough to say, okay, sis, well, you know what? Be careful. I'm praying for you. And if this is what's supposed to happen for you, I hope things come together. I have one friend I know who will tell me, I don't see it, but you grown. If that's what you want to do, have at it. Keep me posted. Okay, yeah, the peanut gallery. You got to be careful with, but you got to know your peanut gallery. Like I just said, I probably, for the most part, I keep that to myself. But I think I have 1 or 2 who would be honest with me. And then on the positive side, you have to be careful, because I also know, and I encountered this, where you have family members who want you back with that ex. And so the minute you tell them that, we're thinking about it, or, we're trying to see what we may do, and they, oh my God, they're back, because maybe this was the person that they saw you with. They thought this was the perfect match for you. And they also miss that person being in their lives and maybe what they brought to the family or to the social circle. So it's hard to tell that person maybe any of the doubts that you have. They're like, yeah, well, we're talking about it, but, oh, girl, bye. And that man's still fine too. And look, you all gone here and gone there, and he's doing this. And, oh, y'all just look so happy. So they're so deep into it for themselves, they can't hear your concerns. And so there's pressure there. Maybe I should try to make it work. This is, a second chance. And my family member just said, well, he's a good person. She's a good person. When your gut is telling you that you probably just need to cut your losses. What we had. One of my favorite Barry White songs. Okay, what we had, and keep it moving. But that pressure there, that they were so good, y'all look so good, it just seems so right, and oh my gosh. So keep it under wraps until you're solid and you know what you all are going to do that is going to work. And then you could do your big reveal. And I say that about any relationship, to be honest, but definitely one like this that is so emotionally charged, right? Keep it under wraps, keep it between you all, and really work on it and be honest about whether it's working or not. And also before you start involving other people. So at the end of the day, either way you go, all right? You said, I'm not going back, or I'm going to try to go back. Life is short. Life is very short. So I want you to think about, again, what might this bring? I hate to see people have regrets. And as we're having these birthdays, I'm getting close to another big girl birthday. You start thinking about maybe some things that you've done, haven't done, or maybe should have done differently. So I think it's worth it to think about it. But it's also worth it to think about, again, is it worth it? Because again, life is short. You deserve happiness. And is this going to bring happiness to your life? Hey, cuz, is this going to bring happiness to your life with the limited time that you have here? I was telling my daughter the other day, I said, according to the mortality clock, I got a good 21 summers left. I like to measure my life by summers, and I know one of my classmates looks at it that way too. So if I had 21 summers left, whether I have somebody in my life or not, meaning a primary partner or spouse, I need those summers to be on point. I need those summers to be fun. I need those summers to be lighthearted and happy. And I don't want to spend them trying to figure out if somebody loves me or if I should be loving them. Okay, so I don't want you to have any regrets, but I also don't want you to sit anywhere longer than you need to. So be a good steward over your time and be a good steward over your heart. So should you spin the block? Should you go back through the Rolodex and give somebody another chance? Think about the value added. Think about how you got together. Think about the aftermath of that relationship. Think about the risks involved. Make sure you're actually see the changes over time and that they're not just bringing a second representative or trying to convince you of this. Thank you. Thank you. So do the work. Are you seeing active change? Are they actually doing the things that they said they're doing? Right? And how does it make you feel? I think we ignore our gut so much. And we depend on external resources to determine how we feel. And I'm still guilty of that sometimes. Sis, am I being too sensitive? Sis, did I hear that right? My gut is telling me that was hurtful and that was nasty. You can keep it next. My cutoff game has become very strong because I don't have time to waste on being unhappy. I refuse. I refuse. If it don't fit, don't force it. Don't make me go back to the 70s. I'll do it. You all know I have a song for everything. So trust your gut. Trust your gut. But if you do have a trusted friend, somebody who can be objective, share it with them. Share it with them. Absolutely. I appreciate you all in the chat. They are there. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to speak the truth. Sometimes before it was the right person, it was the wrong time. The peanut gallery can stir you the wrong way. Absolutely. All those things. But trust your gut. Trust your gut. Examine your heart. Sometimes we could be selfish too, right? And women and men are both guilty of this. Well, I'd rather have this person than not have them. Or if that person was taken away from you, then this could be revenge. Well, now finally I got them back. And life is too short to play games. Play games with somebody else's heart too, right? And they're thinking that you really mean it and you're just doing it again to score some points that you lost years ago. Stop it. Stop it. So that's all I have for tonight. Spin the block or not spin the block? That's the question. Decide for yourself. But it's rough out here in these dating streets. Let me say this last thing. And then I'm going to remind you all where to find me and tell you what's coming next. Married people. I only have a few married people in the chat, but those of you who are listening out there in internet land, if you're married, you need to think about it before you leave. I'm seeing some marriages now break up, and I'm shaking my head because I know both people, and I'm like, that's a good woman. That's a good man. And you think the grass is green out here? Let me tell you, it's astroturf. It's astroturf, okay, and weed killer. That's all it. Oh, hey, Kim. We got two Florida girls on here. Okay, I'm bi-coastal. I love it. Hey, hey, hey. Kim and cousin Jackie from Florida. All right, I see y'all. I see y'all. We got Georgia in here. Man, all right, we're lit. I can't wait to look at the stats. But married people, ain't nothing up here but a heartache and sorrow. Okay, you better try to fix what you got. And again, as I said at the top of the hour, if it's abuse, still not going to tell you to divorce, but I am going to tell you to run and seek shelter. Somebody is abusing you in any way, physically, most definitely, but emotionally or financial, get somewhere and protect yourself. But if it's things are dry, you better pour some water on it, get some oil in there. If it's commonality, we're just used to each other, you better stir up some new interest and find some things to do out here. Much easier to fix what you have than to find something new in a society that's not looking for anything old. There, I said it. I'm in the 50 crowd. The 50 crowd is looking at the 40 crowd. They're definitely not looking for people in their 50s. Folks in their 60s want somebody in their 40s. It's insane. And I won't even go into the nursing home, the 70-year-olds looking for the 50-year-olds. Nobody wants, look at, was it Dick Van Dyke just turned 100? His wife is my age. Okay. So I'm just saying, it is not the landscape it was even 10 years ago. Even 10 years ago. It's a whole process. So again, not telling you to stay in abuse, but I am telling you to think really long and hard before you sign on the dotted line, because it is not what you think it is out here. And people have learned the game. So I hate to see folks leaving thinking it's going to be better. And I've had those conversations, but they're like, man, I had no idea. I would have told you if you had asked. They thought what I thought. Now, my ex-husband filed for divorce, so it wasn't my choice. I mean, I'm glad he did in hindsight. It was the best thing for us, but it was not my choice. But nevertheless, I thought that, okay, I'll take a year or two to heal, and then I'll meet somebody, and then I'll be married again. Then it was like, okay, well, I'll take a few years because I really want to make sure my kids are grown and they're stable. And then I'll meet somebody and I'll get married and I'll go off into the sunset. It's not like that out here. Folks want companions. They want, and even that, right? It's a very loose definition of companionship. Even some of the exes, they want to try it on a trial basis, and then you end up in a situationship. And my next guest, who will be on here, he's written 2 books about situationships, 2 plays actually. Ross Swan, if you're watching, I see I'm plugging your book already before you come on, but that's really the name of the game. There are some folks who are very serious. I want a serious relationship. I want a committed relationship, including marriage. Most folks are so scared and so hurt by whatever that ex did. You're going to be in a standstill, or you're going to be in a situationship. So married people, try to fix what you have before you come out here, because it's a whole process. It's a whole process. Well, I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. I'm enjoying being back on Friday night. I'm going to start bringing some guests in. I won't be on next Friday because it's Good Friday. So I'm going to observe Good Friday as a good Christian girl. I'll be at Good Friday services all day, so I won't see you all next Friday. But April 10th, I'll start putting out the promos for that on the next day or so. I will have a very special guest from Baltimore, Maryland, Mr. Ross Swan, who is an author. His specialty is relationship books. He likes writing stories about relationships. And the two that got me hooked were Situationships Part 1 and 2. I got to still read Part 3. But it's rough out here. So he's going to come on and we're going to talk about situationships and just dating in 2026. And he has some really wild stories to share about that. So he'll be with me on April the 10th. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram on the Couch with Dr. Kim. Dr. Kim is me. And if you're a woman, you can find me on Facebook. We have a women's only group called Love and Life According to Dr. Kim, where we talk about everything concerning love and relationships. We keep it real and we keep it raw. We're about 2,000 strong, so join the party. It never stops. And so if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel here on YouTube on the Couch with Dr. Kim, also known as the Relationship Renovator. If you're looking for some life coaching and relationship coaching, I am your girl. So until I see you on the 10th, you be well. Be well. I love y'all. Good night.